So now today is day 4 of our meal plan week. Very exciting. So we have got today we're making my pancetta parm corn chowder, and I'm very excited about it. Listen, I love a soup so much. It's so good. It's good any time of year. Whether it's corn season or not, you can make a delicious, bright, fresh, delicious corn chowder anytime. We'll talk about the corn a little bit later, but first we're gonna get started on kind of some flavor builders. Because anytime you're making soup that's like a relatively simple thing to make, I like starting with the base and giving a ton of flavor into that. So I've got a pan here over about medium-ish heat, and into there I'm gonna go in with 6 to 8 slices of thin cut pancetta. Now pancetta is kind of like, I know, right? It's just like fancy Italian bacon, which is very exciting. So yeah, nicely done. We've got that pancetta, I've diced it up. Now if you wanted to, you could totally use bacon if that's what you're feeling. Bacon is smoky, pancetta's not, but this gives that really nice kind of rich, delicious flavor right into this pan. So I'm just gonna turn it down because this guy is hot. And I just want that to render out that fat. Now, while that starts rendering, I'm gonna chop up a little bit of some herbs. Now, you could do chives or softer basil in this, but you wouldn't add that until later. But I'm actually gonna go with like a woody herb today. So you could do anything from rosemary, but I'm going in with some sage. I love the flavor of sage and corn and kind of pancetta together. So I need about, I'd say, a tablespoon-ish of chopped sage. So I'm just picking those leaves off. Anytime you're using a woody herb, whether it's thyme, sage, rosemary, I'm trying to think of other ones, marjoram, but I don't know anybody who really uses marjoram that much. I don't even know where you get marjoram half the time. You actually don't want to use the stems. The stems are kind of woody. That's why they get the definition of woody herb. Whereas something like basil, you can eat that. Something like parsley, you can eat that too. They're softer on the stem. So we want to pick those off, the leaves off of that stem. Give it a little bit of a chop. And as is a very Mary thing to do, I said a tablespoon. This is probably like a tablespoon and a half, but with herbs, you do whatever you want. I'm not the boss of your herb usage, so you do you. All right, so I have got that nice and chopped up, and I'm gonna go into that pan with that pancetta as it starts to render and brown up. That's gonna give us a really nice flavor. As it starts to cook down, perfumes beautifully, and almost immediately, since pancetta is so much thinner than bacon, it cooks down really quickly. So basically you wanna cook that until it is nice and crispy and golden brown. Once it's there, you wanna remove that pancetta from the pan. So we've got a pot right here with some already going in it, and I'm just gonna scoop that pancetta out. You see there's those little bits of that sage in there. So I'm just gonna remove that. You can see there's a little bit of that pancetta fat that's rendered out, which is looking absolutely beautiful. Now, this is a great base. In this pot already, we've got so much flavor. There's the flavor of the sage, there's the flavor of that pancetta, we've got a little bit of fat. We wanna add a bit more deliciousness into there, so I'm going in with some butter, because why not? I know. Butter into bacon or pork fat, what a delight. This is what we do on the good stuff. We're having a good time. All right, so I'm going in with about a tablespoon of butter. So just grab that and pop that right on into that pot, and just let that melt down. That's gonna bring all of those flavors together and give us something that we're gonna start building that delicious kind of thick, chowdery texture off of. But we're gonna add in some aromatics now. So the first thing I need is 1 red onion that I've finely minced up. You can chop it as big as you'd like if you're feeling a little bit lazy, because we are gonna blitz this soup, but the smaller it is, the quicker it cooks. So, you know, you pay for it somewhere. Longer chopping, quicker cooking, shorter chopping, longer cooking, you know? So I'm gonna go right on into that pot with that beautiful onion. And immediately I'm gonna hit that with some salt and a little bit of pepper. The salt's gonna remove some of that moisture from that onion. It kind of pulls the moisture out, helping it to cook down, again, quicker, which is always a good thing in my house. Despite the fact that I love cooking, or in spite of the fact, rather, that I love cooking, I don't wanna spend all day doing it. I still wanna, sit on the couch, hang out, do my thing. So doing something that makes things quicker, like adding that salt, always a good thing. So give that a good mix together, and you'd wanna cook that onion down for about, I'd say, 3 to 4 minutes, just until it's a little bit translucent and softened. So while that's doing its thing, we're gonna go chat corn. Now, if it is peak summer, it's August, it's beautiful, oh my gosh, what a delight. Corn cobs everywhere, it's sweet, it's fresh. Obviously use those corn cobs. You'd wanna remove the corn off of about 6 cobs for this soup. That would be perfect. But if you ever have a cob of corn in the off season, yeah, that's what it's called. It tastes like starch. Like, it's too starchy. It almost tastes bready, and we don't necessarily want that. So honestly, off-season corn, the freshest for me, I really like canned corn. Yes, okay, I thought I was gonna get guff for this, I'm not gonna lie. Now, if you're not a canned corn person, you can feel free to use frozen corn. Basically, you want anywhere from like 4 or 5-ish cups, but I'd use about 3 cans of corn. We got a big one and a little one, so that's gonna equal about 3. And I'm gonna go into the pot with these cans of corn. I drained them. You can rinse them if you're a little bit worried about salt. I'm not too worried, so I'm just gonna go right on in. The thing about canned corn that's great is it's sweet. Sometimes I find frozen corn tastes a little bit watery, and I don't necessarily want that in my soup. I want that punchy flavor. And fun fact, when I was on MasterChef Canada, my dessert that I made, I actually used canned corn in it to make a corn ice cream, and it won. So jokes on those judges, I made them eat canned corn, which is always a delight. All right, give that a good mix together, and you'd want to saute down that corn for about, I'd say, 2 to 3 minutes, just for a little bit of color. If you were using frozen or fresh, you'd go closer to the 3-minute mark. Since I'm using canned, you can go closer to the 2-minute because it's already cooked. So you're just looking for a little bit of color here. So I'm gonna crank the heat on that a little bit. And then to thicken this up and make it into that chowder texture, yes, corn has starch in it, but we wanna add a little bit more. So I'm going in with a tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Remember that tablespoon of butter we added in earlier? The butter and flour together are gonna make what we call like a roux. And the roux is gonna thicken this soup up and make it nice and creamy, which is a delight. So just add that in, give it a good stir, and you just wanna toast that flour off for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, just let it do its thing. So while that's starting to toast, we're gonna talk cheese, because I said this is a pancetta parm corn chowder. I know. Excellent audience. Anytime we got a bunch of cheese heads in the audience, I'm always a fan. Now, I have got a wedge of parm here. Now, earlier in the week, we used ground Parmesan for a recipe. We made that eggplant parm, which was absolutely delicious. If you buy the wedge of parm, the way you grind it is either chuck your chunk of parm into your food processor, or you know that annoying side of the box grater that hurts to hold? The one that sticks out and you're like, what is this for? Grinding your Parmesan cheese. So if you run the brick over that, it grinds up as opposed to grates, which is perfect. But we're not talking about the cheese right now, we're talking about the rind. So I wanna use this rind. I love buying cheese with that rind still attached, because what I do, there's tons of flavor in there, is just cut that rind right off the cheese. And if you have this left over, pop it in your freezer and save it. But I'm gonna use it right now to pop into this soup. This is gonna give so much cheesy flavor, really good kind of umami into there. Just chuck it in the pot. It's not gonna melt and get ooey. It just gives so much flavor. You do this in a pot of tomato sauce, best tomato sauce you've ever made. Very, very good. So give that a good mix. We're getting that nice flour all toasted. So now I'm gonna go in with my broth. I've got about 6 cups of vegetable broth here. You could also do chicken broth. I usually do a lower sodium one because they taste the same and then I can control the salt. But you just wanna pour that right on in, just to cover that corn, a little bit extra too, to make a beautiful kind of corn soup essentially right now. I wanna bring that up to a simmer, turn the heat down to medium-low, and let that go for about 15 to 20 minutes. But my favorite thing about meal planning is that you can actually cut down on waste. I know that sounds kind of strange, but like you figure out what you're actually gonna buy, then you actually use the stuff you buy. Revolutionary, right? You know, you go to the grocery store and you buy stuff and you're like, why did I buy that again? I don't understand. When you have a plan in place, which obviously doesn't always work out, but when you have this plan, it's gonna be absolutely perfect. So my favorite thing though is you get to use leftovers from previously in the week that we've made earlier. So back on Tuesday, I made that cheddar jalapeno soda bread that is out of control. And if you ask me what goes better with soup than bread, I don't think there's anything better. So we've got some of that right here, looking absolutely beautiful. It's a stone cold stunner, I'm not gonna lie. The crew, very, very big fan of this that day. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jazz this up a little bit to serve next to this beautiful corn chowder. Yes, there's Parmesan in this. Yes, there's cheddar in this. We're making it work. We're putting them together, and it's gonna be a delight. All right. Now, I don't just want to serve this soda bread as is. I want to give it a little bit of like a Frico crunch. And Frico is just a fancy word for crispy cheese, which is very exciting. So I've got a pan here, a non-stick skillet, just over about medium-high heat. So I'm going to add some grated cheddar cheese right into the pan. This is almost like an upside-down, reverse kind of inside-out grilled cheese situation. So just scatter the cheese onto the bottom of the pan, and almost immediately it starts to melt down. I'm going to kind of add it in sort of in the shape of one of my pieces, maybe a little bit bigger for a little bit of crunch. I do love a crunch. Then grab one of your pieces of bread and just pop it right on top. See, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Get ready. We are gonna let that melt. We are gonna let that do its thing. We're gonna let it crisp up. The cheese is gonna get, at the very least, ooey and gooey. At the very best, crispy, crunchy, and ooey gooey. So that's what we're hoping for. You can see the cheese melting. Since cheddar cheese has a good amount of oil content and moisture in it, the fat almost splits out and it kind of then fries itself, kind of sort of like bacon or pancetta. So we're gonna let that do its thing, and I'm gonna finish up this soup. So this has been simmering away. You see that beautiful sage in there. It looks absolutely beautiful. But now I gotta fish out that chunk of Parmesan rind, because we want this to be nice and creamy, and that's never, ever going to blitz up. So give a little hunt. This is the weird thing. The Parmesan gets really soft. You gotta find it first. Really, really soft and kind of like floppy. Not cute. But do you know what this is? The world's best chef snack. You pick that up, once it's cooled a little bit, eat all this cheese off of there. Don't let anyone see you, because it looks like you're eating a cob of corn, but it's cheese and it's so good. Oh, we broke. Okay, cool. So you wanna just set that aside, save it for you later. I'm not gonna judge, because that's what I'm gonna do later. But now we wanna add in something creamy, because the thing about a chowder is it usually has some sort of milky or creaminess in it. So I've got about a cup of milk. You could also use cream here. I'm just gonna add that on into the soup, just to give it that richness that we like. And then I wanna blitz this up. So I've got an immersion blender. If you don't have one of these, honestly, I love it more than a regular blender. It's easier to clean. If you just have a regular blender though, feel free to use that. This is where you stand well back, especially if you're wearing a fancy matching outfit, and you give it a good blitz. Now you wanna blitz this until it is as smooth or as chunky as you'd like. Okay, while I'm doing this, can you please take a look at this amazing cheese that's happening in this pan? Because this little bit, the fat is splitting. So if you look right on this side, you see the oil from the cheese coming out and splitting and frying the cheese. I know. I'm very excited about it. All right, this chowder looks good to me. I like it a little bit chunky, a little bit delish. So we're just gonna take that blender out, give it a little bit of a final season, a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of pepper. I do like pepper on my corn. So we just add that right on in, give that a stir, and that looks amazing. See that corn? Now, if you were doing this with summer fresh corn too, put those cobs in there. All right, I'm gonna serve that up. That toast is still toasting. I'm feeling good. I've got my bowl, so I'm just gonna ladle that on in. You wanna keep that chowder warm over about low heat before you serve it, but just beautiful. If you want it a little bit thicker, feel free to use less of that broth, a little bit less milk, maybe a bit more corn. Honestly, any sort of pureed soup, it's more of a vibe of a recipe than a pure recipe. Now, when I serve this, I can't say no to a little extra creaminess, so I always add a little dollop of sour cream right onto the center, kind of floating island style. Obviously, we're gonna go on with a bit more parm just for fun. And then we've got that amazing pancetta with that crispy sage. Like, so good. But my personal opinion, the best part is the leftovers, and you rarely get to say that. So again, we've got that crunchy cheese happening. Let's see how we're doing. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, let's see. Get it a little unstuck from the bottom there. Oh. Okay, now we're gonna do something wild. I'm gonna bring the pan on over here, and we're gonna attempt to lift all this cheese kind of up and over onto that bread to give you that crunchy, ooey gooey deliciousness. Flip her over. Look at that crunch. Oh yeah. That hunk of bread right next to that bowl of soup. No one is complaining when you serve them leftovers that look like that. I'm so excited. Okay, I'm gonna give this a little bit of a taste, because I can't say no. It freshens up the bread too. It's stringy, it's crispy. You get this crunchy cheese thing. Oh my gosh, wait, I gotta get the crunch. Okay, Mary's talking to herself now because I'm too excited. Okay, I'm gonna give a little taste of this soup, a little taste of this bread. Let's give it a go. It's like summer freshness, but no matter the time of year. And then this bread, no one's turning their nose up at that. Guys, soup and bread, get it in your life. I hope you try this tonight and that you have some of that bread left over, because what a stone cold stunner. If you don't have it already, don't forget you can get my grocery list for the whole week's worth of meals on our social media platforms at The Good Stuff CTV. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of The Good Stuff.